This is Creative to Creative. Together, we deep dive into the creative and production processes of leading creatives, finding out what makes them tick, how they do what they do, and the challenges along the way. This is Creative to Creative, powered by Motion by Design. With over 15 years' experience in the motion design industry and starting an award-winning studio, Made by Things, in 2015, a motion design and animation studio in Columbus, today Matt works as the creative director at Made by Things and the director of creative mentorship program Make Create Club. Welcome, Matt.
Because literally an hour ago, I have a client that reached out to us and they're like, hey, you did this video at 16:9. We want to use it at an event. And that's like, I don't know what that dimension was. It's just, I mean, event displays are always like really weird dimensions.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know, maybe like 16:6 or something.
and probably 60 pixels high or something ridiculous.
Yeah, it's definitely low. And then they were saying that they need their logo at the top. And I'm like, okay, like that. What I ended up doing was like, okay, is this something that I want to charge for or not? Like, do I not even want to worry about it and just, this one's for the relationship, basically. But when they sent that message over, the last line was like, yeah, let us know what you'd charge for that.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's, I don't know, that's something that you take for granted sometimes, because just the fact that they are completely aware that when they make a request like that, that it costs extra, like then you know that you're starting to work with good people that actually care about your best interests.
Absolutely, yeah.
And there was
the best one we've had recently is just charge us what it costs.
Yeah.
Complete trust, obviously, but that's what you want, because you're building relationships, right? And you're not rorting people. And, as you say, like sometimes you give a lot for free, or you go, well, that'll help you guys significantly. So yeah, no worries, we can do that. Sometimes it's worth it.
I think a lot of that kind of goes into another really important part of the whole puzzle of, like, if you go off onto your own, one of the most important things is the relationship with a client. I don't know, like people will say like there's like bad clients and like clients from hell and all this stuff. And I get it. There's like things that happen, and maybe this is just kind of how I am, but anytime stuff like that ever happened, I'm always like, what did I do wrong here? Like I messed something up. If this client is being crappy right now, like I enabled something in this, like what did I do? And for me, it's always like, okay, looking for red flags and figuring out like, okay, at what point should I have just walked away from this relationship? And, you get to those points. And that's unfortunately one of the hard lessons that you can't really just read from a book, is you have to work with people that just do those kinds of things sometimes, where you're just like, the expectation is completely off and you just have to roll with it by saying like, okay, I messed this up, so I will make sure from now on to not let that thing happen. And I guess to me, it goes to the agreements that we have with our clients, where it's like, we try to be specific, but also speak in a reasonable manner. And, we have a video for clients to watch through before we even work with them. That's like 18 minutes long. And it's like, all right, here is what we expect at every single step of the process. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. You mentioned before that you run a remote team. So I've actually been very adverse to remote working. During COVID, we were very lucky in Adelaide, because we're so small that we really only shut down for 2 weeks over the whole process of COVID. And for us, that sort of enabled us to sort of keep coming into work. We've got obviously complexities around file sharing and security of data, for instance, if we go remote. So we've sort of avoided some of those decisions. But how do you sort of work remote? What sort of tools do you use, and how do you, I guess, maintain that creative feel? Like, how do you, I guess, force those, creative catch-ups and, client and peer reviews and, interactions that way?
Yeah, I don't think that we have a perfect solution for this. I think it's something that for us and for me and our team, I think we're always learning new ways and experimenting with different things. As far as like file stuff goes, I mean, there's a lot of like cloud-based file things like Dropbox and Google Drive. We don't normally have any issues when it comes to that. I mean, there's times where somebody names the file wrong and I'm like, hey, no, we can't do that. Like, it's real easy here. Let's all get together and let's talk about file naming.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff happens, but I mean, it happens in Office too.
Every day, mostly me.
But how do you make it as creative as an environment as you possibly can? I think a lot of it comes down to trust, weirdly enough. This sounds bad, but like, I don't usually care what anyone's doing. What I do care about, however, is here is our schedule. Here is when things need to get done. As long as things get done, I don't care what you're doing. You want to take a nap in the middle of the day? I had an illustrator on our team that she just said, I'm going to have a long lunch and then I'm going to go to the gym. And everyone just gave a thumbs up. Like, that's the kind of environment that I've always wanted. I hate the idea of like, we're heads down, working for like 8 hours a day and then that's it, Now, I do always try to make sure that everyone has a good balance of some kind. I think that's a really difficult thing about remote work. But I don't know. I think a lot of it starts with me though. Whenever I was working nights and weekends for the last 14 years, or 14 years ago, it was like learning those kinds of things. Like, all right, how do I turn this off and then be with family? Like, how do I do those things? So I guess I just had a lot of practice when it came to that, making a lot of mistakes then. But for me, there's a couple non-negotiables, and one of them is working late, working the weekends. There are times where it does happen, but everyone on the team knows that when it does happen, somebody messed up when it came to managing this project. So let's not do that again. So I don't know. Again, staying creative though is really just checking in with people and making sure that they are being challenged, which I think is another tough part about being remote, because you don't always know, like I don't know what they've been doing the last couple hours, but I think that, I don't know, when you get into it, it's much easier to tell like how hard somebody's working on something or the progress that they're making on things.
Yeah, you can just tell, particularly, when it's similar to you and I, when you've been in the industry, how long things take, and you get used to people, doing stuff in a certain way or a certain timeline. I think it's that gut feel, isn't it? Like, you need to allow creativity and flexibility in our industry to let people flourish and do what they want and do the way they want to do it. And I think that's what makes, obviously employees do good stuff, but as a company, it's what sort of thrives the culture, I guess. You guys need to love what you do, and you need to have your own space to do what you want to do. I mean, that's why you employ the people you employ, because they're good at something and you let them do what they're good at.
Right. And I don't know, like, I guess that's what, like, people are also going to make mistakes. So maybe I guess I just feel like with a remote team, it takes a certain kind of leadership and you have to kind of adapt. Like, you can't be the same leader as a remote team that you can if you're in person. But that's kind of the other thing is like, yeah, if somebody's taking a long time on something, you got to kind of be able to notice, like, hey, where is that? Like, if you're still working on that, it's probably you're doing it a wrong way or you messed something up. Like, what's going on? And being able to have those honest conversations often, I think is really important. So, a big thing for me is like, hey, can we chat for 5 minutes? Like, everybody on the team, like, all the time. That's like my big thing is like, so we get on a video call and we chat through something and then on the way.
We've developed a process where I guess my goal for this year is to be a more sustainable business, like across the board really, but also for myself. So, as you've probably experienced, like when you're starting out, you just work a lot. I think I took my first holiday at the end of last year for 4 years, and I was just like, I needed to take a break. And we actually went through a process last year of essentially trying to force scale the company. I wanted to get into a position where we had obviously more of a clear cut, spend X, get Y worth of clients. And that way we could develop a management structure and bring in a few more individuals that could sort of, I guess, fit into the pie. I gave up pretty quickly, actually. I thought, you know what, this isn't for me. I don't want world domination. I want to be a small little agency and do cool stuff. But more importantly for me, it's sort of flagged bringing people in to manage creatives is always going to be difficult. And for me, I've basically decided to choose something differently. So we're now sort of collectively managing. So we've got the crew sort of managing their own timelines. They're managing their own work. They're collectively reviewing each other's stuff to sort of, I guess, promote improvement in the work, but also, learn new skills and adapt for new things. And I think I'm interested to see where it's going to go for us, because I've told a few people and they're like holding their breath going, cringe, that's not going to work. But, give it a go, see what happens. I don't know.
There's so many different ways of making all this work.